we all are in some way or another in our current love relationships addressing love relationships of the past. So that could be with a parent, a sibling, a lover, someone in the past that you had unresolved emotions with. You are constantly trying to work through those emotions with your current relationships. So that's what I'm saying when I speak about energy is not destroyed. It is just transferred. You transfer that potentially where you left it was a negative, unresolved situation, and now you don't even realize that you've brung that energy into, let's just say, your work relationship.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of the Tiffany Wilburn series on Circulate. Really enjoyed having a chance to sit down with Tiffany again. I'm your host and producer, Gary Martin. Just to give you a quick intro of this episode. In this episode, Tiffany talks about being mindful of what energy you let in, whether it be from a spouse, a partner, a boss, news, just being really aware of what you allow to invade your space and understanding that energy is only transferred. She also touches on the importance of self-awareness, how she views meditation, and we also have a short intro on chakras. What are chakras? Something I didn't know chakras are something I didn't know about as well until Tiffany talked about them. So I won't give it all away, and hope you enjoy. Thanks. Obviously, the last episode was called
Show Up on Your Mat.
Show Up on Your Mat. Mm-hmm. And one of the things within the episode that really stuck out to me was you, besides Show Up on Your Mat, was when you talked about energy is only transferred and not destroyed. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to kind of hear you elaborate on that a little bit more, because it's something that I kind of like when you talked about also during the last episode, and how I kind of view Show Up on Your Mat, where it's that personal responsibility. Mm-hmm. It's something else, another thing that I've kind of recently started to believe in and realize. That same thing is, the energy point that you made. So can you kind of expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. You're not recording, right?
I'm recording.
Oh, my God. Gary. Okay, just kidding. I didn't know you were recording. Yeah, so, clearly I did not create that statement. That energy is not destroyed, it's simply transferred. But when I mentioned that statement, it was really in regards to my desire to thoughtfully surround myself with energy that was doing something positive or conducive to a positive outcome for me. When I think about having negative energy around myself, whether that be someone else or negative thoughts or negative overall emotions, it can permeate my soul, my ability to give to others in ways that I probably don't even realize. Mm-hmm. So when I think about the fact that energy is not destroyed, it's simply transferred, to me it's about ensuring that my doors that I'm leaving open in terms of my soul, my spirit, my receptivity are open to the right type of energy. Mm-hmm. Because regardless of what my intentions are to allow energy in, energy is constantly flowing. It is constantly moving, constantly ebbing. You just have to simply be thoughtful about what you allow in, because you can't kill it once it's in there. Mm-hmm. You have to somehow either transform it into something more powerful, beneficial, or conducive to what outcome you are needing in your life, but you cannot necessarily kill it.
Okay, so to go along those lines, what are some things, or worse, I should say, what were some things that frustrated you that now don't? And you can talk about, personally or just within your business, either
Yeah.
or.
I think me 5 years ago, I now think of as small things, bother me. I allowed that open door to my soul to be more receptive to energy, whether it was positive or negative, more fluidly. Now I am very much protective of what I allow in, because I know then I have to do the work to transform it if it's negative once it comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, I think maybe that's part of the yoga culture. It's just, it's all free flowing and it's all good, and but when everything is free flowing, that's the good and the bad flowing.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I've just been more thoughtful about allowing the good in and thoughtfully transforming what is in my space once it's there, so that it's working as hard as possible for me once I've already let it into my universe.
Right. So, like, for example, for me, one thing that I guess, is there something specific that you can think of that if you take yourself back to that time that something happened or anything that you could say, oh, like this happened then, but now today I wouldn't look at it the same way?
Yeah, I think just relationships, like friendships, or we'll just say intimate relationships that I would have in the past allowed to transfer my internal like positivity. Like I would allow somebody else's energy or the energy in some space to pull me towards that point of view, like, oh, the world does suck. Oh, that person is an asshole. Oh, they're not cool, man. They're not cool. And I just take a more proactive approach and say, I'm going to stand on the outside and observe this universe that everyone says sucks and that person that is a jerk and all of that. And I'm going to assume the best. And I'm going to assume that person is coming from a good place. They're hurt, potentially. They've been pained. And a lot of times people don't even realize when someone has a lot of negative energy in their life, in their body, in their system, it does come from chronic pain. Whether that be chronic pain physically or emotionally or spiritually, we all are in some way or another in our current love relationships addressing love relationships of the past. So that could be with a parent, a sibling, a lover, someone in the past that you had unresolved emotions with. You are constantly trying to work through those emotions with your current relationships. So that's what I'm saying when I speak about energy is not destroyed. It is just transferred. You transfer that potentially where you left it was a negative, unresolved situation, and now you don't even realize that you've brung that energy into, let's just say, your work relationship, and you're like getting all hot and pissed off because your boss said 1, 2, 3, and you're like, God, why is it 1, 2, 3? And you're like, if you really sat down and thought about it, like, what was the trigger that set you off in that situation? And you may figure out, like, wow, I'm really actually carrying this emotional burden from something 4 or 5 years ago that, of my friend did me wrong, and it was a scab. It was a scab what happened over here with my boss, that it was a result of the injury caused by my friend. Right. So when you're thoughtful about energy not being destroyed and it simply being transferable, I think we all start to be more thoughtful about what energy we allow into our universe. Because you're going to have to touch it and work with it potentially for the rest of your life. Right. I mean, like, if you really thought about that, like, anything I let in, I could potentially have to work with and touch with for the rest of my life, then you start getting really, really, really thoughtful about what you let in.
Now, another thing, what you just touched on there is something that I think is huge, and I think that a lot of people either want to get better at or don't believe in it, or believe in it and want to get better at, but may not know how. Now, I know you just touched on understanding that energy is simply transferred as one of the ways you get better at that. But still, is there some questions? Like one question you mentioned was to ask yourself, well, what is the source of this energy, right?
Right.
How is there any way you can explain how you get there? Like, how do you get to identifying, oh, this is from here?
Yeah. Honestly, I believe it starts with self-awareness. The more you can do to become aware of your energy, the energy that you are offering the universe, the energy that you are offering your loved ones in intimate relationships or close friends, it'll be a lot easier for you to recognize positive or negative energy from someone else. And when your self-awareness is, air quote, on, when you have really tuned into, I am contributing in a positive way to this situation, or am I potentially poisoning this situation with negative thoughts and intentions and all of that, it becomes a lot easier for you to recognize opportunities to adjust energy in someone else before you allow that to permeate your universe or your space, or it gives you a lot better awareness to say, I'm in a bad place right now, and you're in a good place. So let me just hold that thought. I'm going to come back to you next week. Or you know what I'm saying? Right. It doesn't even have to be about you trying to preserve all the good that you have. You have to have the self-awareness to know, I'm not in a good place right now. So I don't want to put that kind of negativity out there because I'm going to transfer something whether you realize it or not. So I have to right now, let me work through this. Let me knead, as you do dough, let me knead this around so that I can get it to a place that it's palatable or that it's doing some good versus the negativity that I know I'm putting out there right now.
Wow. So when I was listening to episode 2, I ran back through it and I was looking for some common themes. And I don't think you did it on purpose. It just naturally came out. And one of the themes was exactly what we're talking about, understanding yourself. You brought up, these words came up, feel, heal, and reveal, and surrender to yourself. What are some practical ways around your business that in terms of yoga or that you do? Now, we've talked about just the mental approach in terms of just understanding the importance of those things, right? But what are some other practical things that you do? I know people would naturally say, well, it's just yoga, right? But is there something that you can go a little further into that exists within your business?
Yeah, so for me, honestly, the first thing that came to my mind was meditation. And it's not because it's, I don't want that to be cliche. Like, meditation truly is supposed to be an opportunity for you to tune into yourself. It is an opportunity for you to feel your heartbeat, an opportunity for you to hear your breath, an opportunity to identify if, and I think I mentioned this last time, if I'm angry on the outside, but actually I feel anxious. You have to diagnose the feelings and not assume that on the surface I got it. I know it. I'm irritated. That's what it is. Yeah. But what is it that's irritating you? So meditation to me is the first very simple step that everybody could do to start to tune into the feel. The other thing that I love about yoga is that yoga is a lifestyle. It's not a movement practice. It really is about journaling. When you journal, it's kind of funny because when I was probably like 12 years old, I started, I was very yogic, even as 12-year-old. I started a letter to myself. Like it was a journal notebook or whatever, but it was a Dear Tiffany, and I would write a letter to myself every day, just what I was thinking and how I felt and what I was hoping for and if something inspired me, but I always was talking to myself. You have to start a dialogue with yourself and actually be open to hearing what your subconscious is telling you. In yoga, we talk about the self a lot, but there's the uppercase self, capital uppercase S, and then there's the lowercase. The ego is a part of the self, and the ego gets a bad rap. A lot of times it's like, oh, you're so egotistical, you're into yourself. But there's a part of the ego that is really beneficial and good because that is what's going to help tune you into true enlightenment.
Is the ego the upper or lower self? Can you break down the...
So it connects like to the chakras. So the top of the skull is considered, it correlates with the indigo, the color indigo, and that's connected with true enlightenment. So it's beyond the self. So it's the self connected to the universe versus the self connected to the physical presence and the physical needs and the individual.
Okay. And so the top self is the
connected to the universe, your greater purpose. You are simply one leaf on this giant oak tree of life.
And the lower self is connected to
the ego.
The ego.
I, as this leaf, need to have all of the water. I need to have all of the sunlight.
So what's the chakra? What you said?
Yeah. So chakras are energy centers that exist along the spine. And there's 7 of them. They go from the base of the spine all the way to the tip of the crown. Okay. And essentially, we could do a whole show on just chakras, but essentially, they're actual nerve centers that are converging in your nervous system that are actually transferring and creating certain types of energy. So you have the base chakra. That's really a lot of people that struggle with the asana-based portion of yoga, with like lifting their feet off of the earth. They very likely have a blocked root chakra. Like your chakras can be very, very open, too open. You constantly are in handstand, and you have no desire to have your feet on the ground. The old saying in the 70s maybe, you are a rolling stone. You have no tethering to the earth. You are constantly moving. You're constantly ungrounded. That would be like correlated to have an overly open root chakra, versus someone who is potentially fearful of doing those inversions, fearful of getting their feet off the ground, never willing to take a risk and leave their comfort zone. They may have a closed root chakra. So there's 7 different chakras up and down the spine, and the root was just one as example, and then the opposite end would be the tip of the crown, which is the crown chakra, and that's linking to the opposite of being completely grounded. That's linking to enlightenment, true enlightenment.
And those are the top and the bottom S's?
Yeah. So then it goes up from the base to the sacral, which is very powerful for women. That's where your ovaries, and it's really interesting too if you get into the history of the chakras, all of the different organs, inner biology that actually correlates with the chakra. So you would go to the sacral chakra and then go up to the stomach or the navel. Then you would go higher into the heart, and then the throat, the third eye, and the crown.
Wow, that's interesting. So, yeah, we definitely are going to have to talk about that some more. So within that chakra, you described the base as like, could you lift your feet off the ground or not? Is that just like why is that connected to literally the emotions?
No, I mean, really, one way that there's different things that as a yoga instructor and a wellness practitioner I would do with a client to essentially diagnose if you have an overactive chakra or a closed chakra. And there's certain things that we do with energy rebalancing to essentially realign your chakras. When your chakras are in true alignment, you are in balance and in harmony. So if you, like I have been in this situation many times in my life where my heart chakra has been so closed, and it not only, when you have, for example, a closed heart chakra, you're less open to showing or receiving affection. But what actually ends up happening is that energy manifests itself in your flesh. You actually might have tight chest if you have a closed heart chakra. Or if you have a closed throat chakra, you actually might constantly have a chronic sore throat. Or you may have a stiff neck or something like that. But there's so many ways that either having an overactive or underactive or closed chakra can manifest itself.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, we definitely have to talk about that more. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please feel free to share the show on all your social media accounts and websites, or email friends or any family that you know that might be interested in the story. Please also go to YouTube, iTunes, and other places and subscribe to the show. That would be a big help and helps us get the word out as well. Some other ways you can support the show is by signing up for a Patreon account that supports the show directly. If you go to patreon.com/circulate, there's also a support under the support tab on our website. It'll direct you to the Patreon account. Also, there's a PayPal account that people can make one-time donations. And also on our website, there's a apparel that you can purchase under the shop tab. And in general, I just hope you keep coming back and keep listening. Thank you. See you soon.